Hello, I'm Toby Beach and welcome to In Montgomery County, where we take a look at our community that we call Montgomery County. Many of us have a passion or a calling. We either ignore it, do it as either or first, maybe even a second job. At the very least, we may just do it as a hobby. I would think, though, that few of us would have a hobby traveling around the world, collecting 30,000 photographs from 80 countries on 6 continents. Joining me for this show are Jono David of Jono David Media. Think of the stories he'll be able to tell us on this show. Okay, 30,000 photographs. You know, I mean, you just didn't do that overnight. I mean, that's something that you started a long time ago. Let's start right from the beginning. If somebody came up to you and asked you, who is Jono David, how would you answer that question?
Well, I would say that I'm a photographic documentarian of Jewish communities worldwide. I'm based in Osaka, Japan, where I earn my living. I earn my keep teaching English at 3 different universities in the Osaka area. But my passion and my life calling now that I feel takes me around the world, as you said.
Well, now let's take a look. You went to Japan. You've been in Japan 16?
16 years, 1994.
Okay, what took you to Japan to start with?
Well, prior to going to Japan, I had traveled during my school holidays, university primarily, and I had never been to Asia, and I developed an interest in Asia, and I wanted to live there for a while, and Japan, economically, is the most, I think, viable place to live for a period of time, and I didn't expect to be there 16 years, though, but here I am. And
so you woke up one day and said, let's take pictures? What was the...
Well, it wasn't quite like that. As I was traveling, I had the fortune to come to some unusual places in the world. Well, unusual in the sense of that I didn't expect to find a Jewish community in certain areas. For example, it all kind of started back in 1987 when I was looking at a local Washington Jewish Week newspaper. There was a story about a Jewish community in the Amazon. And I was traveling down there anyway. I was going to be going down to meet a friend. So I said, hey, why don't we go? So we did, and but I wasn't a photographer then. I was just a traveler, and I had a little Instamatic camera, and we met the community there, the remnants of it.
You're tourists, basically.
Yeah, it was tourists, and so I took some photos. Thereafter, there was a long period of time where I didn't really do anything about it. However, I wrote a story about my experience, and it was published in a Jewish newspaper in the United Kingdom called the Jewish Telegraph, and that was exciting for me. First publication, really. And
what year was that, Jono?
That was, well, early 90s.
Okay.
It was a couple of years after I actually went down there.
Okay.
But I always kept it in the back of my mind, the experience. And then later on, as I said, it was a period of time went by. In 1997, I traveled from China, from Beijing to London by train, via Mongolia, via...
Trans-America?
No, the Trans-Siberian.
Trans-Siberian, okay.
Wrong country.
Okay.
Yeah. And I went to Irkutsk, which is in Siberia, and there I met the community there, some people in the community there. And then I traveled across to Moscow and St. Petersburg. And then when I traveled to the Baltics, I continued to visit places. And I was just beginning to feel, you know, somewhat of a connection to the places I was going to via being Jewish and the people, the Jewish community there.
And this was in what year? This was...
1997.
Okay. Now, your library actually started, the early ones were 88, and was it that long?
Yeah, but those photos are really, they are actually, as we speak, they're still in my library,
okay.
Sort of as a holding place. One, for sort of nostalgia, because that's where it all sort of started.
Of course.
But also because I don't have photos. I haven't been back since, and I really have nothing else to represent that area. So I'd really, really like to go back because I have... One, because I have nothing really of significance photographically from that area, but also because that's where I really kind of considered that it all started.
And then, so as this, you started feeling more of a passion, I guess, more of a calling?
It was the sort of snowball effect. It just got bigger and bigger, and then over time I realized that, you know, hey, I've got quite a few photos, and I started to put them in photo albums. But this was, you know, still prior to reaching a level of photography that I'm doing today. It was really kind of sort of a hobby, if you will, at that point. I mean, but now it's, I don't earn my living this way. as much as I'd like to, but it's not a hobby anymore.
And how did you, I guess I look from, and this is for people that have a passion, they start, and then they make that it's not really a leap, it's kind of a long walk to 30,000 photographs. It's a long haul, isn't it?
I'm sure I've taken 150,000 photographs. Yeah,
of course.
Yeah.
But how do you make that journey? Is it, I mean, it's
well, like I say,
long.
it's a progression. It was a progression of my interest. It was a progression of my growth of travel. After I moved to Japan, I started working for university. I had 5 months of holiday a year. I had to fill my time somehow. So my early days of traveling when I was living in Japan, I was really just a tourist. I didn't take a lot of photos of Jewish sites, but over time I sort of lost interest in that as just being a tourist. It didn't have a lot of meaning for me. So I got more involved in photographing the Jewish sites and meeting the people there and having experiences and contacts and making friends that you know, I wouldn't have had just as a tourist. So everything just grew exponentially, and I improved my my photographic skills.
Now, if you had to look at a mission statement as you're going along through this whole process, and you're developing this, what would be your mission statement through all this?
Well, of course, I'm just one guy in a big fishbowl, and there are plenty of other people out there who do documentarian work. My mission is to make my personal contribution to the preservation of Jewish communities through photographs. There are plenty of places which have been documented, of course, that I'm also documenting, but I want to have them in my library where things can be in a tidy place, if you will. Then there are places that have not really been photographed, and I'm somewhat surprised by some of the places that I go to, some of the even better known sites.
One thing I got to, one photograph at a time. How is that? What is that statement on your?
Well, it's one click of the button at a time. So that's really what that little catchphrase came from.
And what is this personally to you? I mean, this is. Do you consider yourself a religious person?
Not particularly, no. And I think a lot of people are kind of surprised by that because I spend so much of my my time, my energy, and my resources doing what I'm doing. For me, the impetus for why I'm connected to it is really from the cultural connection, not really the religious connection.
As you take a look at things, when you start doing these traveling, I mean, we're talking an incredible amount of traveling. How do you set all this up? I mean, you have a staff, and I mean...
In my dreams, I do.
Yeah.
No, not at all. I am a one-man show, really. In the sense that it takes me anywhere from 2 to 3 months to set up a typical trip that I do now, because as I said, I have a lot of time off. So I have generally 2 months of time off in any one block. To maximize that time, I reach out to people, thank goodness for the internet, and I start a search, and I find people. And then I'm usually bounced around like a ping pong ball before I finally get to a person that can say, yes, I can help you. Yes, we can give you permission. Yes, we can give you access. So at the end of the day, I'm the guy behind the lens taking the photos, but there's a lot of people behind the scenes that make this happen. So I don't take full credit for my photo library.
How does your schedule, and most people don't know